Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. I'm Van, and we are all the LFR family. I have something fun to check out with you guys. Hopefully, you're here for it. Y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know. And please understand, whenever I'm covering any of these conversations with these young adults, these students in many universities, having conversations with Charlie Kirk, just know I'm not coming from a bad place. I'm coming from the space of a dad, of a father, of someone who have children their age and older than them. And I know that they are still developing. They're still trying to understand where they're coming from or where their life is going to lead them. And they got some learning and some living to do. So please extend a little bit of grace to these young people, but they are also to be reminded that they don't know it all. They don't know it all, and that we can all learn something together. So y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know in the comments. Let's check it out.
Charlie, it's nice to meet you. I wanted to have a discussion with you on abortion. My position currently, but it's open to change, is that I'm pro-choice up until the 20-week mark, where my understanding is the studies say that the subjective conscious experience is what I kind of value about life. And so I kind of draw the line right there, and then abortion's passed, then I would be in favor of outlawing.
Okay.
What's your position on that?
It's a reasonable question. Would you say we should stop abortions when brainwaves start?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if brainwaves are an indication of the subjective conscious experience, then I'd say yes.
Okay, so 6 weeks, not 20 weeks.
If that's when the mark is, and the parts of the brain are communicating with each other to deploy the subjective conscious, I'm fine with 6 weeks.
Okay,
yeah.
so are human beings more than brainwaves?
Are they more than brainwaves?
Are you more than just brainwaves?
No. I don't think so.
So you're nothing more than just brainwaves?
I don't think so, personally.
Okay.
I think that's the most important thing. Like, the example that I would give you, sorry. The example that I would give is a person in comatose, right, who's indefinitely in coma and is not going to wake up, is hooked on life support.
Right.
Arguably, they have the unique DNA, they have the heartbeat still going, connected to the ventilator. I don't know if you would agree with that, but arguably the most important part that we're looking at there is whether they're awake or not. If they're not going to wake up, I wouldn't consider it to kill that
People
person.
come out of comas all the time.
That's true. That's true.
If you want, you can come up in a sec.
9-month coma.
Yeah.
I would say that just because there's a temporary lapse in the communication between like the brain, or just because there's a temporary lapse in you still have the parts of the brain that are able to deploy the subjective conscious experience.
Can we come to some agreement? Heartbeat and brainwaves probably a good time to cut off abortion, because that's right around 6 to 8 weeks, right around there.
Sure. I'm not fine with that.
Yeah, sure.
So you're like a radical right winger, man. So
I'm not like
that's.
I'm not like I don't want to be like
a hard time. You're coming here in good faith.
It's fine. Yeah, sure.
But at least you're looking at some sort of rational restriction, right? And
sure, of course. Yeah.
The radical left, they say no restrictions whatsoever. Just let the mother choose.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No. I'm not saying you do. But
no.
And it on its face, it doesn't make any sense, because if it's the mother's choice, always if the baby's completely viable, right, throughout the gestational period, even the third trimester, a third trimester baby at 28, 29, 30 weeks can survive outside of the womb. How is it any different than in the womb, right?
Sure,
and
of course,
so
yeah.
a value of a baby does not change just because the size, level of development, environment, or degree of dependency that the baby has on the mother.
Yeah,
and so those of us that are pro-life, we articulate a position that is not always popular, but it's morally correct, which is that life begins at conception, which it begins when new DNA is formed, and you are not fully formed at that beginning, but that is when human life actually begins.
I don't mean this as a gotcha question, but it's actually genuinely
try your best.
curiosity. No, it's not.
I've heard almost all of them.
Sure. Would you consider Plan B like, because there's
it could.
All right, so first I want to just cover this part right here. I'm pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice. I don't think that one takes the other one out of here. I just think that as human beings, we tend to F things up a little bit. We tend to make things far more complicated than they need to be. But I will say this, at least we're working toward a goal. We have been teaching people how to grow online. It's been absolutely amazing. We have 3 people who have been able to reach monetization in less than 30 days. Growing YouTube channels, some from 0 people. We have one guy who had 2 subscribers before he started working with me. He started helping him. His views went up 4.8 million%. We're super excited. If anybody ever want to grow on YouTube, you reach out to me with the word coach. The thing is, people who claim to be pro-choice, they don't realize it, but they are allowing individuals to take advantage of certain liberties, and by doing so, they are destroying their own lives. They are committing so many different crimes on themselves, and we won't call it crimes. Let's just say they're killing far too many babies, because I think the number right now is upwards of 3,000 abortions per day is happening. And now we got people that's debating about it. And are we supposed to debate about it? Yeah, we're supposed to have these conversations so we can get to a conclusion that we are all fine with and comfortable with. And I don't expect for any of us, all of us, to think alike all the time. We are not a monolith. Even if we were born and raised in the same nation, the fact of the matter is we have options and we have rights and we have privileges, and we have decisions to make based off of our own timing and our own desires and our own wants and our own needs. And because of that, we're having these debates about abortion and pro-life and pro-choice. And I honestly don't want anybody to be able to decide what my daughters do with their bodies. I don't. But I understand why we're having this conversation, because so many people are extremely irresponsible and borderline demonic with how they are treating their bodies. They just have abortion after abortion after abortion, and their lives aren't even in jeopardy when they do it. And it's just ridiculous. And if you go back to the reason why these mass abortions even started, it's not for the good of the nation in the first place. It was actually, again, demonic. They say it was because of Margaret Sanger. I don't know if it was only from her, but I do know that she drew up a plan to try to lessen an entire race, and we fell right into the trap like it was nothing. And now we're debating about this and trying to figure out what women should do with their bodies. That's not what I'm here for. Honestly, I just want everybody to be able to make the right decision for themselves. But I also don't want anybody to, I want us all to want to save the nation. That's what we should be here for, to try to save the nation. And by constantly having abortions, that's not saving the nation. That's just saying I'm going to be irresponsible as much as I possibly, as much as I want to, as long as there's an out. There is an out for me, and I can just go pay to have it removed and just move on to the next. And that right there is I don't know. I don't agree with it. But y'all feel free to let me know whatever y'all want me to know in the comments. And I'm mainly looking forward to seeing the women comments, because in this argument that we're having, I think your voices are more necessary than we give you credit.
B. So Plan B, we don't know if it actually is terminating a fertilized egg.
Okay.
So because Plan B could be an abortifacient, but it is taken as a precautionary potential abortifacient, right?
Sure.
So there's a difference between what is an at-home abortion, which is now widespread, where someone knows that they are currently in a gestational 39, 40-week development of a human being, whereas Plan B is like, I had unprotected sex, I'm going to take this just in case, right?
Okay,
and
sure.
essentially what Plan B does is it nuclear bombs all the eggs, right?
Okay.
For that particular, and excuse the, graphic nature of it, but that's what it does. So
Plan B should be just that. That's the thing, though. And a lot of people don't even consider that part. Plan B should be Plan B. Like, I've done everything responsibly. I've picked my mate out responsibly. I've known this person for a good amount of time to know that if after acting responsibly and something was to happen and the woman was to get pregnant, then she could say, "Oh man, I can get a plan B to help me out with this situation." I think it's kind of irresponsible of the woman to just use plan B and just pop them like Tic Tacs and just say, well, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Pop, like, I already know that this could be taken care of. Pop, and just popping them in their mouth. But honestly, they wouldn't be able to use a plan B if it weren't for the doctors creating plan B. Not the doctors, but whatever scientists in the labs and whatever organization. I don't know which organization created plan B pills, but they created them for a reason. And women are using them as they should. We should use whatever is at our, I mean, as a resource. If it's a resource of ours, we should be able to use it whenever we want to use it. But I don't know. it just seemed really irresponsible to me. It does. And if the only way I can say that this is completely wrong is to jump into my Christianity bag, and I'm not going to do that because not everyone believe in God. So that completely takes that out. But I do believe that a lot of times when we're young and when we don't know better, we make choices at those ages where we haven't even lived life yet that we later regret in life. And I don't want anybody to regret getting rid of a human being. And then later on in life, they meet somebody that they love, they marry someone, or they're just in a relationship with someone that they want to build a family with. And then they find out they can no longer have children. That's the problem. As far as it being illegal for women to be able to do it, nah, I don't believe that. I still believe that we should be able to make our own choices. And forcing somebody to make the choice that we want them to make will never end well. So, that being said, having these conversations respectfully, I believe will always lead to a good decision on both sides. But there are extreme irresponsible individuals in our nation, in this country, and they are just ruining their lives over and over and over again. And obviously, the adults in the room are going to pull up and be like, "Yo, let's back it up. Let's back it up just a little bit. Let's reassess and let's figure out a better way to do this." But here's the thing, and this is not. You can say this is La La Land, Fantasy Island, or whatever, but most people don't pick out their mates properly. Most people don't do it like we did back in the day, where you court somebody and you see what they're about, and you go out on a few dates and you write letters, and you just get to know one another for a while before even jumping into that act that will make you have to choose between having a baby or an abortion or a plan B pill. Because plan Bs, they don't do anything for infections, they don't do anything for diseases and those type of things. So you got to consider that too. A lot of people who just look at this plan B, obviously they're looking at it because they're already irresponsible, and most of them are irresponsible as hell, and they're not even considering whether or not this person that they're laying with has diseases, and they're going to catch that. Where's the plan B for the diseases that you might catch? Where's the plan B for the diseases that you have that you don't even know that you have, that you're passing on to other people simply because you don't have any signs of that disease? So these plan Bs just encourage irresponsibility, in my opinion. So with that said, these conversations are necessary, but as far as it being illegal, nah, that's just another way to put us in chains, bro.
It depends on if the egg is actually fertilized or not, which is, I would never, encourage anyone to use Plan B, but it's a little more complicated than
I understand. And then my second question,
yes,
just another hypothetical situation that I've heard on a podcast. I know you've been on the Whatever podcast.
Yep. It's right down they film right down the street, by the way, in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I really like watching they have good content.
Yeah, it's not a great group of people, but yeah.
Oh, really? Why?
Not a great group of people.
I won't.
It's pretty self-evident, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't like those conversations that they have over there anyway, but I love what they're doing as far as building the platform that they're building so that people can feel safe enough to have those conversations and listen in, because they're interesting conversations. You know what I mean? I might not be my style, but I'm 46 years old, 46-year-old black man. So obviously I'm not going to, be interested in what they're talking about over there, but I'm glad that they're creating some content for people to really appreciate.
Anyway, so there was a woman on there. Her name was Jasmine, and I thought she posed like a pretty interesting hypothetical where there's a burning building, right? And you have 10 fertilized embryos and 3 live babies, and it's burning, and you only have an option to choose one. Which one are you saving?
That's a tough question. I mean, first of all, it depends if the embryos will ever be used. That's the better question. So if you can guarantee the embryos will then be used into full fertilization, then to be consistent, you would have to save the 10 embryos.
Okay.
If they're fully fertilized, then will be used, yes. But
Okay.
the 3 babies have already gone through the entire gestational period, survived potential miscarriages, other side of birth-related issues. But that's a fair and very good question that to be principled, you have to answer it.
Sure.
I honestly feel extremely uncomfortable talking about women issues. Just gonna keep it a buck. Like whenever my daughters are talking about those type of issues where your mom not available, where's your mother? Go talk to your mother. How come you can't talk to your mother about this? When the boys are having an issue, when my young men, my 22 and my 24-year-old are having an issue, I'm in there. Like, bring that to dad. You know what I mean? I want to talk about that. I lived 46 years as a man. So yeah, I think I'm qualified to have conversations for that. As far as these women conversations, men, we're kind of we're kind of out of place when we have these conversations. Can we add something to the conversation? Obviously, we can add something to it. Obviously, when we're talking about legalities, when we're talking about rights and privileges, and when we talk about responsibility, irresponsibility, those type of things, and we're concerned about women, obviously, because we have mothers and aunts and sisters and grandparents and those type of things, and people that we're in love with, and this is just so many women or females that we have relationships with. So obviously, we're interested in this conversation. But some people know a lot about it from their own research. So they have an opinion, obviously, and they should be heard. But this issue is a women's issue. It really is. It really is a women's issue. Men, y'all need to stop being so daggone irresponsible. That's all I'm gonna say. I do realize that the ladies look lovely, they smell good, they pretty, and they kind, and they small and petite and all this other stuff, and you just want to do things to them because you're just nasty. You're a nasty bastard, and you don't want to put on no prophylactic. Take some time to put on a prophylactic. Consider what could happen with this woman that you have not vetted properly. You have not vetted this person properly, and they are potentially going to be your child's mom if things go opposite of what you're preparing for things to go. So because some men don't even want to have the baby, like because I'm not ready for no baby. Then why did you lay down with this lady with no condoms, no protection, no nothing? Why did you do that? Because she let you? Okay. Well, you do know that she also could have a whole lot of stuff going on down there that you don't know nothing about, but you just so quick to jump into the bed with her and do whatever. And before you even find out, see, here's the thing. Before you even find out whether or not you got something, before you start getting symptoms of anything, potentially, you can be on to the next, giving somebody else what you got from this young lady right here. Or if you're that irresponsible, you could potentially give that young lady that you're with something that you got from your last person that you was with, because that irresponsibility just happens over and over and over again. Obviously, it's a bunch of people who believe that they can't get sick. It's a bunch of people who believe that they can't get pregnant until they're ready to. They believe that they're above. They believe that they have a better plan. Like, for instance, this one video that I posted on Instagram, an old lady, white hair. She looked like she's in her 80s, probably even 90s. And she's telling her granddaughter how back in her day, the way that they prevented pregnancy was to put a whole blop of Vaseline up in there, is what she said. Put a whole blop of Vaseline up in there and you can't get pregnant because it's going to block all the sperm. And those were the generations that were having 12, 13, 14, 15 kids. That's not even happening nowadays. Well, some people are doing it intentionally because they love big families and they're finding somebody to marry. They're finding somebody that they love, and they are having huge families like they did back in the day. But back in those days, apparently they were using Vaseline to prevent themselves from getting pregnant. And we saw how that worked because all of us have grandparents that have 15, 20 kids. Well, not all of us, but I'm sure if you don't have grandparents with 12, 13 kids, I'm certain you know a bunch of other people who do have grandparents or parents with that many children. But anyway, y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know. Love y'all. See you on the next video, please.